API. Just went through setting up these two web service, web-based services. One was Google App Engine, which will be hosting our web app. And I was suggesting this because of maybe you might want to keep your web app running afterwards, just to avoid getting first accounts. And in the Google APIs console, we enabled the new API. Show you there, but I'm sure everybody's on the same page. And if your account has access to Google APIs, then there's no reason why to use the same project you set up in Google. You have to set the Google extension for this separately because the Google APIs console already has a project. Microphone? Okay. Does it turn off? Okay, so we enabled Google API Mirror API on the Google API console and added some credentials to the information, and we made a note that you should be aware of this client ID and client secret, these two values. To get back to those, these are actually on. So if you're logged in with one of the accounts with the class, if you go to the developers console, it's in credential. So cloud.google.com project console, maybe /project will do the trick. So if you go back to the credential, in there, next to the O section, there should be one client ID you've generated. Okay, and again, within this credential, this should be the website that you are deploying your web app. And in that sense, maybe it's better for me to edit this because I was using a different one, and it should be actually properties, Google App Engine, this one. Where did it go? There we go. So I'll have to put it there. One. .appspot.com, and this one should be updated too. Updating automatically. There we go. Update. So taking some time. All right. So you should be aware of these settings. I mean these keys. Then coming back to our slide. So that's and then one. Menu below was a consent screen where the title, we just set the title, but you can set also a homepage URL or a small image that shows up when the end user tries to log into your website. And that was there. And we've started coding on the Google App Engine. No, we started creating a project on Eclipse and logging into the GAE plugin. And I think we were screwed up with development setup here. So, so coming back to this Eclipse environment. So this is the project I've created before. So for those who want to review it, file new web application, we'll create this web application project for Google App Engine. If this doesn't appear, try other and then Google Web Application Project. And once you've selected that, you name the project. This is a local project. It doesn't have to be matching the server side. The package for the Java namespace you use. And uncheck Google Web Toolkit since we haven't installed it really. And then leave the Google App Engine. And if in case you're signed in, actually let me do it to show you. So if I click, and to sign into Google App Engine plugin, just click here. And then since my default browser is already logged into my Gmail account, it shows up directly. Otherwise, you'll be prompted with to type in your account and accept it. And wait for a while. You'll be logged in. Bottom here. Maybe I'll have to move a little bit further down. All right. And then if you create the application after you're logged in, you can actually click browse and it will show you the app IDs you can choose from. So that's handy. But anyway, so that's how we created the app. The web app currently has one class, which does just prints out hello world string, even not in HTML, but just plain text. And it has a couple of files inside, and I'll just go through some of the files that we are interested in. So these two are obviously libraries. It's using this WAR folder, stands for Web Application Archive. Yeah. So if I remember correctly, yeah. So and that's kind of file format that you zip up all the Java files and deploy it to the website. And that's web.im folder. Inside here, there are a couple of configuration files. And there's an index.html, which is the main page of your website when you first get to your website. So let me show you again. It's actually not there anymore. I keep forgetting my app ID. Was this appspot.com. So if you open up your website, it should look like this. And by the way, deploying the project was right-click, Google, and then deploy to Google Engine. So once you deployed it, it should be running on the server. It will show the first index.html page. It's just a simple HTML page with just one link here, which links to the servlet. And this servlet just prints out the hello world, not even in HTML, but just in plain text file. Okay. So the case that you might have. So there are a couple of cases. You might haven't. Have you got it deployed? Google, sure. And then deployed, and then you got the message that deployed was successful? I'll try it. Okay. And there is a case also that the Google App Engine servers get some hiccups at the beginning. So sometimes once you set up the Google App Engine project, it takes a couple of minutes to get the servers up and running. But it should be fine in a while. So anyway, again, that's how you deploy the App Engine and click deploy, and then it will deploy, compile the Java files, and then deploy it to your App Engine account. So we're here. So far, we haven't done anything with Mirror API. It's just a plain Java servlet that is deployed to Google App Engine. And now we want to add the Mirror API, which is the main fun part of today. And again, sometimes it will do this kind of stuff, waiting for the server, and opens up. And again, later on, as we will go on with subscription callbacks, this might be a problem. So I'll let you know now. So if you while you deploy, if you check this, leave this checkbox unchecked. Leave this checkbox checked. Then it will launch a web browser, and it will do a small unnecessary thing that adds this one dot in front of your URL, which could cause a problem later on as you work with callback. So maybe it's a better idea not to check that checkbox, but to just manually open it on your web browser. And so we're there. And so we've went through the structure, and we already deployed it. It's live demo already done. And now adding Mirror API to the library. So you right-click on the project, and you go to the Google menu, add Google APIs, and then choose Mirror API and click Finish. It's that simple. So I'll maybe show you that right now, and maybe you can do it as well. You right-click on your project, Google, add Google APIs. Then it takes a wee while, and then there are a bunch of Google APIs available, and then you type Mirror, and then you suddenly get this one, and then choose that one, click Finish, and it will add the Google APIs to your project. So while it's setting, so once it's added, you'll see this another library added to inside your project as well. So we'll leave it there and then keep going there.
Your Wi-Fi's a lot quicker than you use your own one.
Oh, really? I'm pretty sure I'm also on the Edge ROM. Yeah, I'm on the Edge ROM as well.
Or if you use it. It seems to be.
Okay, maybe. So anyway, on the next slide, so far we just added the Mirror API library, and here comes the a bit complicated part, but maybe not necessary to know all the details, but better to know at least what it's doing. So again, your web app using Mirror API will be going through authorization process with the end user's Google account. So what and how it works is using OAuth 2.0 kind of industry standard for open authorization. And how it does is this one is an end user's browser. And the end user's browser will first try to access your website. And what your website should do is filter out all access to make sure the connection with the browser is under secure connection and also logged in with the user. So you have to filter all the access. So you have to create a filter that at any file on the web server the browser accesses, it redirects your browser to OAuth/OAuth to callback, which was actually the URL you've set it up here as a redirect URL. So that's the callback you are calling, and this will be implemented as a Java servlet again. And once your browser is redirected, this time the browser will try to open the authorization servlet instead of the main file he tried first. And then that servlet will handle through some authorization, including asking the Google server to ask the user to log in with Google account and so forth. And in the end, it will get a token, a kind of token that the server can keep to move on to further communication between the end user and your servlet or your website. And then once that's done, it will again redirect you to the main page of your website so that users could continue on clicking other stuff. So that's kind of rough overview of what the classes we're adding will be doing. There are a couple of other things other than adding servlets to your project. First of all, you'll have to enable HTTP sessions on GAE, Google Apps Engine. Google Apps Engine, by default, the settings doesn't have HTTP session support, so we'll enable that. And then you'll have to force HTTPS access only. So Mirror API partially works without HTTPS, But when you are running some subscription services, like you want to have a feedback from the user or something like that, then you need a secure connection from, you will have to connect through secure connection. So it's better to force it to have only HTTP access and then filter out inappropriate accesses. That's creating the filter. And you implement this by servlets and also probably adding a new servlet to log out. So I'll probably show you how to do it one by one. So enabling sessions on GAE, you go to this folder and open up this XML file. There should be a place that this tag is commented out, so you can copy that and bring it out where it's to uncommented. So maybe I'll do it. So if I go to webinf appengine.webxml, and if you scroll down, there should be this session enabled tag commented out. So you just copy it and move it just one line ahead. Everyone good? So maybe I should move this to right. So, and then the other thing you'll have to do is force HTTP access only. This time we're going to web.xml, not Google App Engine Web XML. And maybe this time might be easier if you have the slide and copy over these constraints rather than typing them all. So if you go to our, no, not here, code here. So at this point, it might be easier if you have downloaded this mirror1-hello world.zip. We might be using some of the classes from there. So, okay. Slides T, I. It's not a good idea. I'll just go to here and then find the window. It's better. So that's mirror1-hello world file, and just trying to copy over this tag. Sorry for keep going back and forth. Drive. My drive. Shared drive. Class. Take 2. Slides. 2. Okay. Listen. So you just copy over this force HTTPS, copy, then this time it's better to have it here. And then you go to web XML, and then you can just add it to the end. Oops, let's didn't copy it over. Copy. Paste. It's not copying properly. That's not working. I'll just open it up from the existing project, if you don't mind. So first is the HTTPS only. So we've added that. there. Good to move on. And then next one is to define filters. We're adding quite a bunch of things because we're going to just throw in ready-to-use classes here. So say just copy these and again add it to XML. And if you have downloaded the completed Mirror API project, then it will be easier if you just can open up the same files. And then
Which zip file are we using? This is Mirror 1 or Mirror 0?
Mirror 1.
Mirror 1.
Yep. Should have the similar structure, but Mirror 1 is the one I'll be using. And then, so far we've got forcing HTTPS, defining the authorization filters, and then the last thing will be defining the servlet, which is again.
So how many filters? There's only 2 filters.
There's only 2 filters. 2 filters, and also for the server mapping, there will be only one servlet mapping, which is all callback itself.
With XML now, do I need all of that into the project or just part of it?
Yeah, you can do it in the way. You can if you would like, you can just pull all the XML. So far, what we need is just 3 things. First one is this forcing HTTPS. The second one is filtering out inappropriate accesses, which is 2 filters, auth filter and reauth filter. And then the third component is adding this servlet, which is called OAuth to callback. So I'm pretty sure this is the most boring and tedious part of setting up a new project. So hopefully that gives you a little bit more encouragement.
Okay, so
I didn't get the callback URL. I noticed you did something a while back. Whereabouts is that done?
That was in the cloud console thing.
Oh yeah.
The
Yeah,
default
but
settings.
yeah, that's the default thing you have on the console. If you haven't typed in the callback of your own, this is the default thing. Okay. So are we good to move on? Those who want to move on, right-click on the source folder and click New Package. It's just creating a new package in the source folder and name it com.google.glassware, which is actually the namespace for this authorization servlet. So that's com.google.glassware. Finish, and you'll have this empty package added. That's just creating a place where we can drag and drop all the Java files, which actually came from Google's own sample code. If you're all there, I would ask you to go to Mirror 1 Hello World, which you might be already looking at, inside the source folder. And if you go to the com Google Glassware subfolders, there should be a bunch of Java files, all 6 files, which are related to authorization. So you just drag and drop it to the namespace we've just created, and probably copy files is better. And then that's it for creating an authorization callback.
Where did you get those files from? Which
Where did the XML from? Was that from
Directory is from mirror,
What did you call that?
source,
Text?
com,
Hello, world.
Google cluster. It's the same as the package name. Yeah. Yeah, and those are 6 folders, 6 folders. So to review what we've been doing, we've added appengine.web and made sure sessions are enabled. In the web XML, we've forced HTTPS and defined 2 filters, and then 1 servlet for authorization callback. And then we created this package here, which is school's codes package. And then we drag and drop these 6 classes that's related to authorization. So, and then I think that's good for now. Let me just quickly check if I've missed anything. So, oh yeah, one more thing. So again, if you remember, there was a client ID and client secret that you had from the Google console. And it's now time to get those back to your value. So if you go back to your console, you should copy this client ID. And then if you go back to Eclipse, in one of the Java files you've just copied, there's a auth settings.java file. And if you open it, there is a variable that says client ID, which might have been already filled out by one which I used. So you just fill in that client ID in auth settings.java, and same wise with the client secret. Okay, so do the same thing, client secret, copy, and then paste. So you've got your client ID and secret in your auth settings, and then I think that's a good stopping point to deploy your app, maybe. Servlet for logout, I'll do it later. So once you've deployed it, if you try to open it on your sample demo, deploy. So there's no error.
What does it add that one dot to the URL?
One dot URL, you just remove it.
Yeah, what's the point behind it though?
It was because later on, when we get further with subscription callbacks, that will bother because of it's different from what's registered on the client ID.
I was wondering why it adds one dot to it though.
That one.
Versioning
Yeah, that's the kind of versioning that App Engine does in the background, but we don't really use them for this tutorial. So I think I still.
Whereabouts did you get all that XML from?
Copy it from the web XML on there. So under maybe.
So these 2. Yeah.
So we've got so far. If you refresh your web page, it will show nothing different. But if you click one of the servlets here, which is just printing out hello world, then it should filter out that access and ask you to log in or ask you for grant authorization code like this.
Mismatch.
And you might, if you have any error messages, then like the URL mismatch might be because of you have different URL between the one on the API console and where you are deployed, where you have deployed your actual, or if you haven't removed that one dot thing in the front, that might be also another reason.
But error not found.
If it's the error not found, it might be a case that the deployed version of your app is still setting up. So just try to refresh your browser with your sometimes it's not enough to just type in. Maybe better to open up another window and load the website again. So maybe it's a good point. Maybe I go around and help you out. Banner here. Maybe just try to remove the path API.
Oh, yes. Here shows. Oh, bollocks. Okay, so
Re-edit.
yeah.
Google there. Oh, you've grabbed all the files. That's not the files you needed. It's only the 6 files that you really need. So those who are seeing some troubles with Java compiler, there's a high chance that you've copied over too many files. So make sure you're copying the Java files from this Hello World mirror mirror one.hello world project, not the quick start project. So make sure it's only 6 files you copied over here. If you have more than 6, then you might have copied over from another project, which might be the Java quick start project that I've shown you before. So anyone?
Here. So I go back here. This is the URL here.
Mm-hmm.
If I go there, there's nothing behind it. And when I run it from here, it goes to an entirely different URL.
Yeah, if you run it,
sorry,
it's
not run deploy.
Oh, okay.
Where's deploy going?
Google. That's Google. Yeah.
Done. Project. It doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter. Yeah.
Deploy. Deploys. So I think I have 2 apps registered and somehow confused the 2 somehow. Get rid of the 1 dot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a completely different URL?
Okay. If that's the case, I think you might have created another app ID. Where's the
console is there?
No, I mean the not used to.
Oh, this is Eclipse in here. 8.
Okay, 8. Okay. If you go to the project setting of this, you might have created another application ID here.
Sorry.
So.
So I didn't follow every single step, but basically what I followed was I added all these classes.
Mm-hmm.
I added these 2 files from that other thing, but I haven't updated. I haven't updated this. I don't know how to do that.
That's if you go to the API console.
Is this the API?
Not the App Engine, but the one that you logged in with your one of the HitLab Glass accounts.
Oh, okay. So how do you do that?
Maybe you just open up an incognito window file, and then you incognito window, and then go cloud dot. Those who are looking for the console API console, I'll show you the URL. Here, cloud.google.com/console/project will be enough. So make sure you're looking for this client ID from the console where you're logged in with HitL Glass accounts, not your web app account. So you've created this on the HitL Glass account, and
So I've got a problem, or it was happening, but is that because I'm using my own account IDs and not
sorry.
that I'm giving that for us?
The uphill credentials the same as the Wi-Fi.
I click the link and go to the
You
callback.
tried? Are you in the console?
Is your app at least running?
Yeah.
Yep.
One has
In that case,
little glass with $3 signs.
Oh yeah.
TMC 101 plus.
Yeah.
What are you having trouble with?
So this is the application I need here.
Do the same thing.
The problem is
Then if I go to
they need to line up for some reason I don't.
Oh, so you just got into your own development console.
I have.
What's wrong with? Oh, I'll just use my own.
Well, I'm not, there may be issues with that at some point.
Oh.
So what's if we have access to the Mirror API?
I think you've missed. There should be no, actually there should be 2 more lines here.
Oh, okay.
I see. There might be issues with
Looks like
one.
this. Maybe you
Yeah.
missed to copy. I think it might be
That's-
4
It's on here, so which one?
up to this bit. Yeah, that bit. Yeah. What's next?
You can access that one. I use the. Is it?
I think it's because you're logged in with your account.
Yeah. I.
Yeah. So your web app is running on your account, but the Mirror API, you'll need a Google account that's tied to a Google Glass. So you'll have to log in with another account. Sorry.
So we can't use our own account. Which bit's this for?
File incognito window. If you go to cloud console.
I think I've just got the maybe I've just got the problem. So I got this one.
Yep.
Try this.
Then there you go. So and then you plus
Because why I said that one. Why we cannot use our account?
because if you log the Mirror API won't isn't enabled on accounts that is not tied to a Glass Mirror, but it was working there. Yeah, so in that case, you can actually try. To log in with your account, but
Is that likely to cause problems later?
not sure. So officially, so far as I know, those Mirror APIs are only enabled on those accounts that has Glass on it.
Okay.
But maybe they've loosened the restrictions, but not sure.
I was able to add the Glass API using just my account. So. Project URL.
So one thing you can do is actually the console here. Then if you go to the one that you've created, right? Then if you go to
Servlet.
I'm logging this. Managed to get the API.
This one is a bit
Well, maybe just delete it and try again. So I'm having trouble with it. See what happens.
actually create another project. Let's create it for now.
Schedule for deletion.
Yeah, the projects you created on the console API, usually, even if you delete it, they keep it for about a week. I'm not sure if they provide undeleting them later on, but anyway, that's how they run. So you'll have to go to the APIs. And if you scroll down, it should be mirror.
Okay, whatever.
Okay, so maybe they've actually okay, so maybe they have actually pulled down the restrictions, credentials. Then you'll need to create one and type in your website address and get the credentials. Or didn't you already did this on the other account? That was why I was asking you to log into the other account, which was using the incognito window. What's the incognito window? Which account did you use for?
Yeah, no, my personal.
You used your personal. So maybe you missed some of the steps creating the credentials then. Did you went through creating the credentials? Okay. If that's the case, then maybe you can just create the client ID here. What was your website address? Do you know?
This is
Yep, that's it. Okay. Then you should use this client ID and client secret to copy over to the settings. Okay. So it seems actually tried with David's account, and seems Google maybe released the Mirror API open to everyone. So at least for getting the credentials for your access to the API, Mirror API, maybe you can also use your own account if you would like. But I wasn't aware of that. So for the tutorial, I'll just keep with the structure I had so far. So that everyone got this login prompt? No? No? Okay. So should I? Or should I? Yep, maybe.
I'm just restarting Eclipse.
Oh, okay.
Currently, it binds the port.
But
I've created my own one. I just typed in the name of my app.appspot.com. Is that right?
Yep, you just get rid of this laptop.
Oh, it doesn't need
Yeah,
that.
it doesn't need that.
So that's where I screwed up, I think.
So
You're asking.
This is one.
I still have.
So when I click yourself,
URL mismatch, which is TMC101 did not match a registered redirect URL. Go back.
Change.
Well, the actual URLs, can you punch them into your app, or should you? Or are they just in there?
Go back.
Sorry, we lost.
Got your
Those URLs like googleapis.com/auth.
Those ones are the same. You need to change these top two.
you deployed
I
afterwards.
changed them, but I was wondering if these
Yes,
that's
I've got
okay.
two URLs.
In that case,
Do I put them in somehow, or is it just in there?
One was the other two I deleted because
you have the console.
so did you
With your
I created it. That's what I was wondering is if you named that, whatever the name of your app, is that the name of your app? August Water.
yeah, it's just following it generally. Yeah. You've got the same, don't you?
okay.
No, I manually typed it in.
Do you have
I had
the
To Google Earth. Yeah, I basically.
do you still have the page opened with
yeah,
credentials?
so is that the name of based on the name of your app?
And the
no.
It's based
Oh, okay.
on the name of the
It's
client
down
ID
here,
it's generated.
Customers,
When you,
Jason.
the very first thing that you
this one?
type in, you create.
Oh no, that's the other one.
Yeah.
That's
the
a-
name of the app.
That's okay. We can
Yeah,
open
yeah,
up
okay.
another window
Right.
and
So dot and then dot app bot. Yeah,
That's
that's
one. Yeah. What's the difference? Yeah, I've got two blocks in which I want.
window
yeah. Well, I've used OAuth.
there
Did you hit that button?
and
Yeah.
Ah,
cloud.
so what was the story? I deployed for button.
All right, I'll try again.
Which one did you use? Tito.
I didn't do this bit, so maybe that's
Oh, okay.
and that's probably his problem. But it's the same thing.
Okay. If that's the case, maybe we can
Usually run.
let's go to this API source.
So you go down and right click Google.
Right.
Then you've turned on the mirror API and you did the credentials here. So you have your credential on the same thing.
Deploy something. or other.
TSMC
Yeah, there from bottom.
Oh, there we go.
on glass.com.
And
It's probably the same.
Looks like it's working.
This one.
Touch wood. Oh yeah, completed success. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Cool, so you should be able to click Servlet.
Sorry. Where was it?
The will.
Six.
Sure, there's no typo.
Oh, no, no.
So it seems there was. Yeah, you were missing. So the URL is actually your project name and then appspot.com, not this. So
I did the same thing. I just deleted it and created one again. Got a whole new error now. Server error.
It's pretty sweet getting OpenAuth.
so same here.
OpenAuth is usually
So
a pain,
it's
but
not
I guess
just
it's
.com, but
the hard part's actually the server side.
your
Google does
project
all that.
ID,
All right.
then .appspot.com. Okay.
Special.
Right.
Then update it.
Now it could be new.
I think it might have given you a new client ID and sort of. So you'll have to copy that over to settings again.
Yep.
Not sure if it's the new one or the same one. Might be the same one. Looks like the same one.
Have a look. Like
What was the mirror API specific part? Was that not?
You haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it looks like the same
Same
one.
one.
Maybe you can just deploy it again, and or even just run it, refresh it. Then it's done on the server side, so it should be. There we go.
Yay.
So
Okay, so
Got
I've
it?
got possibly done the same thing. So
Yeah.
I did. So it's
so your appid.appspot.com is the right.
any change to this one?
You don't need the dot in the front, so you just delete those. And same with there. So I think that, and once it's updated, if you try to
No, that's the other. That's the.
yeah, that's the other thing is I think you've missed copying some bits from the XML file. So if you could open Eclipse and the HTTPS only mapping, but I think you're missing the do you have it? You have two filters and HTTPS. Yeah, you're missing another bit. So can you open the file you've copied over the WebXML? One up. More. WebXML, yep. And then if you scroll down, there's a sublet called Auth. Auth callback. So you'll have to have also here to here. And this bit to be copied over. To keep every servlet mappings up here. Okay, then save, deploy it again. Yep. Cheers. Just let me know if it doesn't work again.
I think I've got it going.
All right.
I don't think so, the errors. It's been doing that for a couple of minutes, so it's probably not a sync issue.
Okay. Let me show you one more thing. So if you go to, yeah, it logs somewhere. So let me show you. Maybe it's a good time. My Mac is running out of memory. Not that one. So if you go to the developers console, and there should be, and this should be on the account that you set up your web app, and in the web app engine section there is a logs, and this is sorted in chronicle order. So the bottom one is the latest thing you've. If you actually this is not the correct project I'm looking at, but anyway, should have a similar thing. App engine and then logs. Sorry. That's because. Are you in the right project? Which one is the one running?
The one that you
That's the API project, and then this one is the one you're running the app. Web app. So here should have logs here. Very well. So that's the log file. Yep.
I'm getting this thing. I couldn't do either of both because once I change the web XML, it just gives me the error.
Okay, let me have a look.
If I take all the constraint out, that's fine.
So you've got is it this having a problem or the other?
No, before that it didn't have problems.
Oh, okay, so that
So if
for
I
that.
take all the log out stuff and all the constraint out, it works. This one needs to be server.
About stuff.
It's supposed to be a copy and paste.
Just to make sure if you take out all these bits, let's see if.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so I've got big again.
Actually, somewhere.
Oops.
Somewhere
Okay.
Address.
Oh, well, that's actually.
else.
Oh, what? Oh, right.
Another error.
I just did a reboot on the week. Yeah.
Nice.
Finally.
Have you done much with servlets?
Yeah, I actually teach paper.
So it's working.
Research
And
service.
where did you
Practice.
copy it over?
Okay, well then you've already pressed
Oh,
pass. How do I
from-
pass in a parameter?
This one?
From what?
This one.
I don't know. From like, say if I go to this,
So not mirror 0.
this
but,
URL, I think.
there is mirror.
And
So I've got my. I'm deploying this thing.
this one.
Have you got the Drive, Google Drive folder open, the shared one?
Once I've deployed it, it'd be quite cool to be able to I don't know, type in like a,
Yep.
you know, with HTTP, you can normally
So
type in
you
like.
can
But
stick
I'm
it on
pretty
the
sure it should
URL.
have
Yeah,
worked
yeah,
from
it's
the other
also-
one as well.
Just get parameters.
yeah.
So
It's
read
very
it.
careful visitors you've had.
Okay, cool.
Both should be the same, but anyway.
But it's written itself all over its fantasies.
It's,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then first part's the key name, so key value pairs.
Yeah. So I'll pull it. I don't know,
Sounds good.
and then that's it.
That's it. Yeah. Semicolon into that line and oops.
My normal development.
And on the left it'll be string whatever inside of that.
So so that'll return a string. Yeah.
Returns the
Okay.
value of that key basically.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Cool.
Further down, further down,
So
further
yeah,
down.
you can test that just by checking on.
Further down, further down, further down.
It's just that
Then from logout, here, search it.
Z.
Down
No.
to yeah, you don't need the index. There should be already indexed. Yeah,
And then
that's
so I
good.
just go.
Oh, actually,
That's like name.
Question mark name
we
equals.
need
Oh yeah.
these until later on. So
Nice.
we'll just copy over the one that we needed.
I've done something like this
So
before.
Alt
Now, ways, but
tab. So servlet mapping. So that's a servlet for the callback, and then we have to have the filters and HTTP as well. So let's put it after the welcome, just because of there we go. So that's all. Sir?
Control.
Success.
but yes.
Okay.
I'll get my
I used to
URL.
press Alt Fs. It should do the same thing. Yeah.
No, oh,
Really?
doesn't work.
Alt doesn't work? Okay. Anyway, what was it? So we have that going. And then App Engine, I'm pretty sure you've got the sessions working, right? Yep, you'll have to have, you have that bottom, okay. That's good.
No slash.
And then you've got all the 6 classes in here, right?
Yep.
And the settings, you've got your credentials.
I don't-
All good. Then right click.
Yeah, so because so click on your Hatu, because that's your actual server. It's on the end of the
Oh, there we go.
And then we'll hope it will work this time.
Hopefully. I've done a couple of these before. Sometimes it works, sometimes it
Oh,
doesn't.
cool.
So
Usually
Yeah.
it's tiny little things that change.
Some advanced stuff.
not really.
I'm just joking.
word service papers are third year paper. This is the stuff we teach in the second year.
Yeah.
That's why I'm kind of interested in Google hacking and stuff. Last time I tried it was a couple of years ago before they made it publicly available. It was still a beta. I registered for it and they added me to some waiting list and that was it. Never had anything back. So first time I've actually played with it seriously.
Yeah.
That'll be useful for that 3D paper attention.
I've been meaning to get into it. Yeah. It's pretty useful in the fact that it really does make deploying stuff online so much easier.
Yeah,
Really, it's
I
main
guess the question would be at what point do they decide to start charging money for things?
Well, they are already.
That's on requests and stuff, though, isn't it?
Yeah. But I don't know how competitive it is with price-wise with other things. But the main concern a lot of people will have with it, and still do have, is that you are really tied in with
Does
Google.
work if you get
You're going to have to
that
pay them
out
whatever
of.
they want to charge, and your app's fundamentally written on the Google servers. It's not like always easy to.
Well, so far we're using standard
Those-
Google API,
Yeah.
except for the stupid authentication crap, but that's just not what I want.
Yeah, so I mean, this whole servlet is just standard stuff. But that's just me.
But yeah, that's a common complaint about all these server-side app packages and things. There's no standard,
Working.
so you can't migrate from Google to Amazon without rewriting stuff.
Another thing you can do is go to
You
console.
ended up with a
Do
big
you have a
application
console
on
open
it,
already?
and fees were too high. You couldn't work.
API engine can do.
API are like stick purely with Java server, Java web APIs, instead of Google stuff. It should be transport.
Yeah. Just have to probably test that.
Might fiddle with the authentication stuff. Yeah. I've already seen out there who
Oh, no.
kind of wrap other people's services.
Was it the other one?
Yeah, that would be the way to go, I think, because it just doesn't seem like a good plan to be fully dependent on.
Maybe you can just start it again. So have you?
The work I do, I mean, they would probably never really look at it.
So security cloud.
Just doing it themselves. I think it's really nice for like small developers who don't want that overhead of time to step it all up.
Yeah, definitely. And you don't have to mess around trying to register domain names and like rubbish.
Yeah,
It's supposedly scalable, so
yeah, but that's the other
It's the
thing.
account where you were hosting.
Very little time. What we just built then could probably,
Without the dash?
probably handle like a million requests.
at what point do they start deciding to charge it? Because at the moment it's free. Yes. So
My mate
And
said
people
that he's
add
actually already
engine.
getting charged
Right.
for his apps because they
See what's causing the problem.
that he applied for. They gave him like $5,000 or something. Or
What's
free time.
crashing?
He asked for it basically.
No.
nice.
Exception. Class not found.
So I've read a few
There is not found.
tutorials on minimizing
Glassware.com, Google Glassware auth filter.
if you're trying to deploy, I don't know, a backend for a mobile
Oh,
game or
if you
something.
go back to
They'll
Eclipse,
request white counts in terms of.
Yeah. So switching things to peer-to-peer when they can and stuff like that. Is that what you mean?
Well, just
Moving it off the server.
compressing everything and
from Google
how you actually wants to design some of the load stuff and all these things.
filter.
I was thinking about actually game design. I think would be quite a fun project actually building a really simple networking for games. So something which is like basically like peer-to-peer, but has like a sort of
Glassware.
checker, which is like a sort of central server. So one way I thought you could do it, just a sort of simple thing, was this: if someone's basically sends what moves they're making in real time through like, I don't know, TCP or WebFast
Sure.
to the other player through peer-to-peer, like I'm going forward, I'm going left, or maybe something more semantic, like I'm moving, I shot this thing or something like that. And then that's all hashed, like signed, digitally signed, and sent with it.
It's
So
actually identical, so it doesn't.
the other player checks it. It's constantly checking whether something is possible or not, like anti-check.
Here.
If it's impossible for the server checks if it's signed and impossible, then that player can get booted, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then you don't really have a lot of server-side communication.
True.
So basically, you just only ever upload the exceptions when someone is cheating. It'd be like very rare.
For every move, you're going to mess with over his in terms of
Like
checking
constant
every
signing.
move.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Because if you think you've got, I don't know, a round trip time of probably minimum is 200 milliseconds.
You probably have to do it in batches. You'd have to like sign. You'd have to just rely on them being honest for like, do 10 seconds or a minute worth of
Any
play
other
time.
errors other than that?
Or probably as small as possible, but like 10 seconds of play time, and then check, or like 20 seconds of play time, check, whatever's feasible.
Yeah.
And then the player gets booted if they do it, so it shouldn't happen very often. It'd be like more of a disincentive. And if they did stuff the game up a bit,
Which is the most recent one.
it was 20 seconds.
The bottom one is the most recent one.
I guess.
So it's failed.
What servers are useful for games is really not the direct
Just
communication, but
simply saying it's failed.
follow the rules. Someone's talking to another player or moving around and directly interacting with another player. It's better just to go with one server.
Google. Cluster.
You don't play a whole lot of online games anymore. Not, it's my problem anymore. Try and play a first person shooter or something.
You should play DayZ. Play DayZ. I'll show you.
I've actually just been working my way through all of the free games that they have on the Xbox.
This is free, yeah. If you've got a PC, that'll do.
Just in case, maybe
Yeah, armor.
try
It's actually not
to
really free because you have to have armor, but armor's like
recreate this
$5.
package.
Basically, they've modified armor so that
This is an MMO.
sort of, but basically you just log in. It's a first-person shooter type thing.
Yeah.
Well, third-person one if you want. And you walk around these like towns and cities. It's a little glitchy and rough around the edges, but it's quite fun. And you go into these there's zombies everywhere, and there's other players, and players can kill you or whatever. There's no real rules around it,
Right.
and quite often people will try and kill you. So other players are quite dangerous.
They loot your
They
stuff.
loot your stuff, yeah, and you're a pretty valuable target.
It's the motivation.
Here.
yeah, because stuff's really hard to find. It's quite hard to survive.
One,
You've gotta find
two,
water, food,
It's under
yep.
and get kit. So you don't have like any maps or GPS to start with. So you have to follow the signs, and they're all in Russian, so it's pretty confusing. So I'm trying to tell my mate, I'm staring at a site, it says Chernogorod, and he's like, I don't know where that is. I'm like, Chernogorod. He's like, I don't think that's the actual. They just have symbols I can't even read.
You need a Google Glass app to translate it to English for you.
Oh, you got to configure.
So it's quite fun.
yeah.
That sounds pretty
The problem I've had with it is that it's really glitchy. Well, not really, really glitchy, but it's a little bit glitchy. And I tried to pass
here?
it a while ago.
What's the
But it's extremely hard to find. And it just disappeared in the ground. And I was so gutted. And something else that's kind of annoying is it's really hard. Like trying to find stuff. Like we just died so many times. We're playing it's like it's two people.
Gotcha.
And so one person's always dying and grabbing all the stuff, and then the other person comes back and the other person dies and grabs all the stuff. And we've probably gone through about 16 or 20 people just to get to where we are now, which is we've got a gun and a few other things.
Yeah, it seems like zombie games are without it. Do you got an Xbox?
And now I've got a 360, but I don't know.
They've if you've got a gold account, they've started giving away. You get 2 free games a month.
Oh, cool.
You just got to basically only get them.
Get logged in.
Well, if once it rolls over to the next game, it's
Yeah.
gone. The previous game's gone.
Oh, right.
So you just got to log in twice a month and add them to your account, which one you open.
Nice.
The most recent one was cool. Dead Island,
Oh, sweet.
which is a zombie game in
Yeah,
Papua New Guinea, which is
I've been playing that on Steam.
It's kind of crazy hard though, because everything levels the same rate.
Yeah.
So
I played that
level
co-op as well, so it's not quite as bad.
the co-op with the gun.
The co-op,
Oh,
like two
co-op,
player.
gotcha, yeah.
Yeah, so you can sort of back each other up if you get in trouble.
Yeah, I just played it solo, but yeah, it's annoying. You get this kick-ass bloody mace or something which pounds the zombie heads and you upgrade yourself to the next level and suddenly
Yeah.
I functioned. I don't know.
Ah.
Get on for it.
Well, I think this game would have been great, but it's just a little bit glitchy. So,
Metroid 2033.
I used to have that. I think it's pretty scary.
Yeah.
I don't like part-time. Actually, I had an Oculus Rift over I played this horror game on it. Did I show you what I feel so impressed with that?
I've seen pictures of it.
Yeah, I look real nerdy in it.
It's pretty much impossible not to. Yeah.
So that's it,
You've got a bloody laptop strapped to your head.
yeah.
You should leave it.
Basically, it's amazing. What I
Maybe-
think's so cool about it is it's full of moon because it's like 90-degree or whatever field of view, so it's pretty good.
It's really real weird.
It's just finding
It's a 90-degree, but I think it's maybe per eye or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I can see like 2 degrees.
Jeez.
yeah. I think it's like 90 per eye, and there's a little bit of overlap, so it's not full overlap that you get in human vision, but it's pretty close. So it's just basically, I think most ones in the market before that were like 30 degrees, so it looks like a laptop screen.
Yeah.
I don't like this thing, but this thing actually does give you pretty close to.
They have audio as well.
No, it doesn't. You
No
can
audio.
you can wear like 3D headphones if you want to get like positional audio, which a lot of people are doing.
Yeah.
Most people.
I've got some 3D headphones, Zelda ones.
Yeah, a lot of people are using those, but I haven't really bothered doing myself.
I honestly couldn't really tell, to be honest.
I think you would notice it in this because like some stuff like.
There you go. You have another problem here. Redirecting URL.
Things really do look.
Currencyspot.com.
So I was like looking at the graphics were terrible. Thing I was throwing it on. It was a bit of a shame. I'm gonna pretty basic.
It's caching.
So I was using one. The graphics was sort of look like
You need to put
2005 level.
so it doesn't matches with
Fully
the
3D and like little butterflies flying around. You could see where it was. You want to know?
you'll have to have HTTPS here.
Takes off.
So you have to have this setting.
Kind of like I've got a.
It should be the same.
Big hole to be able to combine that with the gaming group.
Yeah.
One
Let's try to do it again.
Yeah.
additional.
Here we go.
Thank you.
Sweet. So, did everyone get that login or authentication?
I've got a hello world showing up on a page somewhere now. That's all right, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's all right. So the thing is that you should have went through that screen that asks you to grant access to your account before you were able to actually do the servlet stuff. So you should have seen one of these screens.
One like that first, and then the second one was about sessions, I think.
Yeah. So it depending on how many times you log in. Sometimes it will ask these three stuff. Sometimes it will just ask one thing about offline something, and you can just accept it. I think it took too much time, so it timed out. So I'll just reload it. Okay, accept. Otherwise, I'll be screwed. Yes, there we go. So once you're sent back to the main page, if you run the sublet again, it will not ask for the authentication again. So you have already created a secure connection and authenticated source. So if everyone is happy with where we are now, all good? Should we move on? So again, this was the most trickiest part so far. So I'm pretty sure it will be much more easier afterwards. And maybe I'll have to speed up a little bit. So now what I will go through is to add a new servlet. So as we go through this example, we'll be adding more and more servlets. One way, so this is not a typically good way to have a web application having a bunch of servlets doing different things. But for the tutorial, I'll do in that way because that makes code simpler for each servlet rather than putting every function inside one servlet and going through the parameters and checking parameters and sort of things. I'll just do one function per each servlet. So to create a servlet, you'll have to do a couple of things. You might already notice that you have to edit like at least 2 or 3 files when you add new servlets to your project. So the first thing is to create a new class, Java class. So in your project, if you right-click on the app package in source folder, which is not the com.google.glassware one, but the one your servlet class is sitting in, you right-click and you can choose new class, and then you can give the class name logout servlet. And to the superclass, there should be a button that you can hit and search for this class. So don't worry about the namespace, but just remember HTTP servlet, and you should be able to create one class. So I'll do that right now. So source code in the namespace your servlet is working. Right-click, new class. Then we'll do first logging out. So log out. And if you click browse and then type HTTP serve something, then you'll see HTTP servlet there. So you've got your name of your, actually it's better to name it servlet. Sorry. It doesn't matter, but logout servlet class, HTTP servlet, and then click finish. You should have an empty class like this. And so that's your servlet. And the other thing you'll have to add is, again, in this web XML. So maybe you remember we added this servlet, which is doing some authentication stuff. We are basically adding the same set of tags here. So you can basically copy this one or the other one that was added by the system. So make sure you don't copy this welcome file list, which is just index.html. So copy over this bunch of tags, which is basically defining the servlet and mapping it to the URL. Copy it and add. Oops, I hit the wrong key. I'm switching back to Mac now. Oops, again, should be Command, not Control. Command copy, Command V, there we go. And then what you'll have to do is rename these, of course. So I'll give it a name, logout servlet. And this servlet class should match your class you've created right before. So the namespace and the class name should be the same. And saying that, be aware of this namespace, which is Google Glassware, which is not your namespace. So org.hitlabnz, depending on which tag you've copied over. Mirror sample demo dot logout servlet. So that's your server name, your class for that servlet. This one could be different from your class name, but maybe it's better to keep it same. And then you copy over this servlet name. And the second part of the tag is actually mapping this servlet to the URL relative to your web root directory of your website. So you can type in whatever you want, but I'll just go with log out. And this part is what appended at the end of your website address to access this particular servlet. And then I'll save it. So again, create a servlet, give it a name, give it the class that you created right before, and then create a mapping of your servlet, which you gave the name up here. And maybe I'll zoom in for you. And then this is the URL that you'll be using to access this servlet. Okay? Everybody good to move on? And then the last thing is, actually you don't see this any XML file or Java file, but you only see what you only see on the screen is this index file. So you'll have to create one more link. You can put it in the table like what this is doing. I'll just delete a bunch of tables and go with simpler stuff for time being. So I'll just get rid of this table for making it simpler. And then I'll add this, and remember the URL you've just given. So I gave it all, and then you can type in the text you want to show. All good? So what we did was we did three things. First, we created a class named logout servlet, inheriting from HTTP servlet. Then we added our servlet to our web.xml with defining the servlet itself and mapping it to a URL. And in the index.html, we just added a link to that servlet. And what we missed, though, was we didn't implement anything in this servlet class. So what we'll do is, good thing with Eclipse, it's really handy. It has a lot of tools that you can type. You can avoid typing codes. So if you go to the source menu, there is a menu called Override Implementation Methods. And what it does is if you click it, it will show you all the superclass methods that you can override in your class. So again, that's source override / implementation methods. And make sure you're in the class you're going to implement. And then you'll see some of the methods from Servlet. And what we'll do is do get, which is basically when it's called when the web browser tries to access the servlet. And by the way, this is the same method that you saw from the default class servlet that was made here, do get. So logout servlet there. And this stuff, you can throw it away. You'll feel with your stuff. I haven't mentioned anything about how to log out, actually, so I'll go back to my slide. And so in my slide, you're implementing this, override, to get, and then you'll call authUtil.clear user ID, because this is the class that you drag and dropped from another project, which is, and then it's basically you can copy over these bunch of codes. What we are doing is logging out, calling this class, and then prints out the results, this time maybe a little bit neater with HTML saying goodbye. So what I'll do is, again, if you're lazy like me, you'll maybe probably go to source.com, my folder, and then open up that logout servlet, which I already made, and then open it up with TextEdit. And what you can do is basically copy over this bunch of code, and then throw it in the servlet. So again, all we are doing here is, and I'm pretty sure you get an error here unless you press something. Again, Eclipse does quite a good job with helping you not to type anything. I mean, you need to type something, but anyway, if you hover over the error, it will suggest you what to do, actually. And in this case, it's because this class is not known within this namespace. So you simply click this import and util, and it will be added up here in import, one of the import statements about the class, and the error should be gone. And the other way to do this is if you go to source, there is an item called organize imports. This one goes through the class in your source code and suggests what code to import. So if I remove this and still have this error, if I go to source, organize imports, or on Mac it's Command-Shift-O, or I think it's Control-Shift-O on Windows. If you do that, then it will automatically go through the classes. So if there is multiple classes with the same name, then it will give you the list which you can choose from. Once we have done that, as you can expect, we can deploy it and see if the logout works. By the way, before we go further on, in this HTML code, there is a small trick that I've added this meta tag that will refresh after 3 seconds to index.html. So it will, once it ran successfully, it print out goodbye, and then 3 seconds afterwards, it will go back to index.html. So don't be surprised if your browser gets refreshed. So I deploy it. I'll have this refreshed. Okay. Oops, I keep doing that. So as you can see here, there's a login link that I can click on, and what it will do is call the auth util server to remove my user credentials and sort of things, and then after a while it will say goodbye, and then after 3 seconds it will get back to the index. And now if you try to access one of the servlets, then you'll be again pointed to that login login authentication step. Okay. But still, again, our first servlet, which was generated automatically, still just prints out hello world. So everyone good so far? Yep. Okay. So far, that's all. What we all done is to make sure we can log in. The end user can log in to our website and log out if not needed. And at last, we are now going to call some mirror APIs, which is the real thing you were interested in. So the first thing to do to access mirror API is to get the pointer or class, object or whatever you would like to call it, in Java way, object that represents the mirror API. So the way you do is, again, use some of the classes that you dropped it in, which is from your HTTP request that you get from the web, when the web browser first tries to connect to your servlet. From that request, you ask the authorization utility to get the credential. And using that credential, you create a new mirror API pointer or object using this function call. So this we'll be using quite often. So we'll copy and paste. And the code itself is quite simple. This is just giving a bunch of factory classes that the mirror API will use later on. And that's the credential that that you might given through logging in. And that's setting the application name and building it. So you can just copy this code over, and what I'll do myself is actually, I'm too lazy to type in. So if you are like me and have mirror one sample code downloaded, you could find hello world servlet and open the text edit. And I think it's at the bottom there. You'll find that function at the bottom. So logos, no, mirror. By the way, you should be back to the default servlet that was created by the Eclipse automatically. So again, you add a bunch of code, and it complains about the class is not known. Again, you can hit Command Shift O or Control Shift O, and then it will figure out what to import. And again, if there are two classes or two or more classes with the same name, then it will ask which one to use. And most of the cases, avoid using repackaged something. Just use that makes much more sense, which is extension app engine URL fetch transport. And click next. Jackson Factory, same wise. The top one, credential. The top one, finish. And then all the errors should be gone by importing all those classes. So we've just created this method here. What you do is, when you get a request from the web browser, you'll be calling this method get mirror, and then you have to pass this request, HTTP request, to this method, and then you'll have the object that you can call mirror APIs from there on. So going back to the slides, and then now at last what we can do is insert a card to a timeline. Inserting a card, as I've shown you this morning, it's adding a timeline item, which is a card, to the timeline. So first, you'll have to get access to the timeline itself. So you call mirror, which is this, and then timeline, and you get the timeline object, and then create a timeline item. You simply go with simple Java object creation, new timeline item, and then set the text to something, display, set display time, and this notification, I'll explain it in later on. And then what you actually call is the item you've created, you insert it into the timeline, and this bit is important, which is you have to make sure you call execute. Otherwise, up to insert, it will just create the HTTP request to send to the Google server, but it won't send it and keep it in your own web server memory. But once you call that execute, it will send it to the Mirror API server so that it will be run on the server. So coming back, I think this time I cannot really copy and paste because I had more complicated. Yeah, but maybe I'll just, since we're running out of time, I'll just copy over everything and then explain a little bit further than what expected. So again, you can Java SQL date or Java util date, list. We still have a problem with list. Sometimes there are some classes that are a little bit unclear which class to use. In case of list class you're looking for, there's a high chance that you will be looking for this java.util.list, which is the basic class Java framework. Okay, hopefully that removed all the errors, and then I'll explain a little bit more about additional codes we have here. So another trick with Eclipse is, as you can see here, there are indentations not made properly. So if you go to the source and click this format, then it will clean up the code and make it look more nicely. It sometimes breaks up the line too much, but it will still make sure the code works but look better. So let me go through this code actually. The code I showed you on the slide was setting the text, which is just a plain text on top of black background. But in this case, we are actually creating an HTML string, which is basically a string that has all the HTML text inside. And I'll go through a little bit more detail later on. But for now, just think it as an HTML text in. And then in this case, I set it as an HTML rather than the text. And then also set the display time. Again, these methods returns the timeline item, so that's why we can keep calling the successive methods so on. And this notification actually, if you don't set this, then it will be silently added to your timeline. But if you set this notification level, then, and by default, I think it will make a clicking sound to let you know the card was added. And then this part is adding menu items to the card. So again, you can have a card which shows some information on the card, but you can also define menu items where when you click on the card, it will show a couple of options. There are actually three items I'm adding here. So one is read aloud, and these actions are built-in functionalities of the Google Plus framework. So read aloud is TTS service that reads that Google Glass will read the text on the card, and you can either set the text you want Google Glass to speak out, or if this is not set, then by default it will read the text if it's not an HTML page. And then this one, toggle pinned, is a menu item that you can pin a card onto the left side of your timeline rather than keeping it because if you keep it on the right side, you might lose it afterwards when more cards are added on. So you can pin it on the left side of the class. And this one is actually deleting the card itself. And all these are built-in functions. So, and then so far you just created a list of menu items. And then to the timeline item, which was actually the card, you set the menus to this list. And then you insert it. And again, the same code that you print out the results. So I click deploy. And this time, at the, in the end, we'll see something on the glass. All right, I'm keeping doing that. Why am I doing that? There we go. Refresh. And then click this, and hopefully it will say. And since I'm logged in with the white glass, that one should make some clicking sounds, and my servlet says card edit and went back to the index HTML. And what you would see is if you swipe forward from the clock screen, there should be one card added right now. Swipe down to get back to the clock screen.
Here we go, yep. And swipe forward.
Forward, yep. And maybe you swipe too fast.
Right, so that's the hello world.
Yeah, so that's the card we've just entered it. If you don't mind, can I get it so that I could project it on the projector, please? Thank you. So, or maybe you can JNLP Android screencast. So if I show you what was added, so again, it made a clicking sound already. So hello world, welcome to the class at Z, and then if you tap, you can see there's a menu item read aloud, and then if I tap on the read aloud, I'm not sure if it's loud enough, but class just read out hello world, and then you can also tap swipe through different menu items like pinning. It will make your card move onto the left side, and you can actually unpin it again. Then you can, in this way, you can keep some of those cards out of the timeline so that it will not get lost. And if I delete it, that card is gone. So what you can do, and again, if you want to see that card on the other glass there, then you'll have to log in to the website you've just created with the proper Hito glass Google account there. So what time is it? It's already 3:15, and
Which dates time class is that? A whole bunch of them inside the Google APIs.
this time class is
Dates time specifically. The rest of them pretty obvious.
okay. Java.util should do the trick. And in case you're lost, you can also cheat by looking up this old source code to see, scroll up to see the import statements. Yeah. Let me show you this one, actually, which one?
Yeah, it's a Google client. Java doesn't have a date.
Yeah, but doesn't really matter, I guess. I think it should do the same thing. Pretty sure. Maybe I've deleted already, so I'll run it again. Then makes a clicking sound. Yep, I think shouldn't be a problem if you use the other class anyway. But it's better to have, yeah, I think the basic class should work as well. So that's there. If I get back. So that's just a small trick that once you've done with your servlet, you refresh back to index.html. And so these cards, you can, again, as mentioned before, you can add HTML text to make it more nicer. So if you don't use this and just set it as a text, then it will be just your plain text in black background. And in this case, we are using, there is a, so the style sheet used on the glass is actually, there's a copy of this style sheet in this CSS file. And this is actually from the Mirror API playground, which I'll show you in a minute. So you can, so Mirror API playground is where you can, it's a website on developers, google.com website, where you can try different types of HTML tags and card layouts and actually copy over those into your code as well. So if you could go to it's actually here. Sorry, I didn't have a link there. So mirror-API playground spot.com. Or if you had this one of these Google Less developer websites, it's also under samples, no, tools and downloads and playground, and there should be the same thing down there as well. Or is this the right thing that yep, that's correct. So, so as you can see here, if you scroll down, and if you're not logged in as me, you'll see templates, and you can choose from different templates here, and you can scroll through, and you'll see different types of templates. And if you scroll up here, you can see the actual code, what's added here, and you can see it in HTML or JSON. So in this case, I'll just look at the HTML code, and you can see how this is laid out. And you can actually type different things, but maybe you can change it to March or something. So you can kind of have a quick look at how your card might look like. And you can choose from nice templates and copy these HTML tags and then put it into your code where we left before. And you can actually try to see these cards actually on your glass as well. So to do that, you'll have to go through getting this client ID, special client ID that with this URL. So it's the same as you did to get the client ID for your website. Just go to your console project and create another client ID with this. You can put it in the same project as yours. Just create a new client ID, and then it will add with this URL website, and it will give you another client ID. Copy that client ID and paste it here, and authorize. Then, and once you're authorized, then you'll be able to push some of these cards. So, for example, if I choose this one, and then I click Insert Item, then this one should make clicking sound, and it should be up on here soon-ish, or not. It's definitely showing my timeline items. It's taking some time. Maybe I'll try another card. Yep, so just the clicking sound, and again, as you can see, it's on my glass moment. So if you want to try different layouts of the card, then this might be the good way to try different templates and try to see how the HTML tags are used for representing that type of card. Coming back to the slides, and there are some tricks with HTML code, so I'll just quickly go through those. Since there's a limitation with the screen size, you can actually define this class. Then if you have a very long sentence or very long paragraph, then this will automatically, the class will automatically chop those into readable size of text and then make it a paged card. So for that card, if you tap on that card, it will show you the rest of the, it will show you this menu item automatically, and then if you tap there, it will show you multiple cards, which was chopped out into readable size of text. And that's how to do it automatically in type in just long article. Or if you do want to make different multiple cards manually, then you can put multiple article tags like this in a single card. Then it will split up into multiple cards, one per this article section. And by the way, in my slides there, these are the links that will explain a little bit more detail about each slide, so feel free to try those. And there's another type of grouping cards. So the previous one was one card having multiple pages. This one is called bundle, and if you are sending a bunch of cards, similar cards over the time, then, and you don't want to mess up the whole timeline with flooded with a lot of cards, then what you can do is you can set a bundle ID to your card. Then the cards with the same ID will be grouped together, and the latest one will be always showing at the top. So, and it will show this kind of doggy ear thing here, representing it has more cards stacked up. And let me show you actually one of those examples here. Looking for location update, there we go. So this is actually the code I'll be showing later on, but just to show you how bundle works. As you can see here, this is location update I'm getting from a servlet every like 10 minutes. And if I were doing this without bundle ID, then this card should have flooded my timeline. But in this case, if I tap, then it will show 7 hours ago, 8 hours ago. Actually, I only have 3 of them. But anyway, you get the idea. And you can have built-in actions. I've already explained it from the code. So there are a bunch of built-in actions. You can let the glass read out the content, delete the card, open a URI, a website, or even a local. You can trigger local Android applications like GDK applications, play a video with a link, and pin the card towards the left of the timeline, and can have a voice call. If you add a contact to the card, then you can make a phone call using glass to the contact that is added to the card. And navigate, you can, again, if you add a location to the card and have this navigate menu item, then if you choose that menu item, then it will start navigation application. And so for instance, if you have an app like restaurant app that guides you, suggests you some nearby restaurants, then one thing you can have is this navigate item, and then it will show you how to get there. And then reply is making it a little bit more interactive. So reply, once you've added a card with this reply menu item, what user can do is select this, choose this menu item, and reply, like if the card said what's your name, and you replied by saying your name, then that text will be sent to the server so that the server could process it and send you another card or do server-side processing. So I'll just go through. So this time, from here on, maybe I'll just import the whole project and just go through the classes thereon rather than doing live coding since we are already 3:30. Maybe it's good to have a short break now, and let me know if you have any questions.
If we used our own accounts, is there any way we can associate them with the pair of classes?
Mhm.
How do we do that?
You'll have to, if you get your own pair of glasses, what you'll have to do is you go to this MyGlass website.
So I was more thinking along the lines since we're how
So-
can I make the app I just developed run on one of those?
Oh, sorry, what? Maybe I didn't.
I created my app using my own personal account, which is
Uh-huh.
not associated with either of the six
Oh,
classes.
You should log in with the account tied to the glass. So your account made a web application. So that's the developer. You as a developer, and as an end user, definitely will be using another Google account with his Google Glass. And what he'll have to log in with to your website is using his account. Okay.
Okay.
So again, so this is myself, end user, and the Hitter Glass account is what I'm using, and I'm logging to your website, and so I'll have to use this account.
Change my Google account and logged in before I go to the website.
So you'll have to log in to your website using this Hitter Glass to open up incognito window, and that's easy to do. Or if you have multiple browsers, then you can switch between Firefox and Chrome, so forth. Yep.
로그아웃 서블렛을 붙이는데요. 얘를
This one.
붙이면은
Be in the slides somewhere.
Yeah, it's written down.
누르면 이제 뭐 아이디 입력해서 로그인한 이것도 안 나오네. 아까 됐었거든요. 근데 로그아웃 서블
필터가 아니라 필터가 서블렛이에요. 서블렛.
그러면은 얘를
걔를 카피해야 돼요. 필터가 아니고 필터는 URL 들어오는 거를 잘못 접근하는 거를 로그인하게 만드는 거고 서블렛이에요 지금부터.
보시고 얘는 이제 제가 만든
네.
패키지로
패키지의 클래스 네임이고
얘가 이제 로그아웃 서블렛
그렇죠? 이름은 여기에 있는 거 그대로 똑같이 써야 되고 그다음에 이거는 URL 뒤에 붙는 스트링. 그게 인덱스에서 부르는 URL 돼요.
인덱스에서는 그 이제 링크 이렇게 걸면
네, 그렇게 걸면 돼요. 네.
되고
네, 디플로이 한번 해보세요. I didn't want to make sounds.
Is this the right one? This is number 2.
Yeah.
Cool.
Timeline. Glass class, is that what we did? Hello world, welcome to the glass class. World.
That's pretty cool. I like the way that you can package multiple slides together and send them as one. I think that sounds pretty relevant to us.
Cool. I wasn't really paying attention to that one. when I was trying to figure something out. So,
You just give them article sections, and you just
oh,
type the
cool,
HTML.
cool. So we have article in section per slide? Or?
Yeah, and it handles going from one to the next automatically over apparently.
Awesome. So we can have one. Bloody great.
Article, yeah. I mean, for flipping them around, we can just the actual HTML. We can just send it as one big HTML string, and then we can generate the HTML. If we wanted to flip them around later, you just generate the HTML and convert.
Have you got your card up here on your glass?
Yeah, I think so. I just changed the text. I'm sure it's mine, not someone else's.
You can send some message to Mark by logging into Hito Glass 0, and he will see some cards.
Australia last year. It's 43, I think we got it. Not fun. Hello, Bob. Awesome.
Good stuff. I might have to
And if anyone wants to try your own web app running, I mean, fitting card to your glass, then you can try yourself.
Oh yeah. So there's some HTML. Have you uploaded the slides that you just covered?
Yeah. So all the slides and the project is up in the folder.
Cool, thanks.
So I'm just thinking in terms of tap versus swipe. Section is a tap and then.
Yeah, I actually don't know how it will work. How they're tied together. You could just try it because if you've got the HTML there, don't you?
True.
Okay,
so it's kind of not this is the old way of doing things. It's teaching these guys about JSP. Welcome to article section, so you can just replicate section. Section closed, error.
That's articles. Yeah, so articles.
Article per slide?
Per slide,
card.
yeah, per card, yeah.
Okay, cool. Section.
There we go. So article, class, cover only, section, article. You can also see multiple cards and group them by ID. But this is probably something.
So let's just do that.
Class, cover only. We'll call that tutorial one. We should get it straight.
Answer, I'll just create 2 slides.
A class cover only. So that means that we can put this one we can define it as the cover.
Cover being the title or something like this.
Yeah. Our class equals cover only. And the sections within that could be anything. There's been some bricks closed. And you can make the paragraph class text whatever size.
Complicated.
Yeah.
Screen 1, screen 2. Done. Initial test is simple as you can possibly section. I didn't. Not screen 2.
Yeah.
Screw it up.
Well, that's good. Let's see what happens. Yeah, it's actually quite nice that you can do that.
Yeah. Showing errors as well. Oh, skips.
Well, I'm not really sure you're going to be using push to send the tutorials. It would be quite funny though. Someone's like screwing something up and you like push a tutorial.
It's kind of like Clippy the old versions of Microsoft.
Yeah.
It was that you were about to. Like you to push things.
Seems you're having trouble with.
Breaking it, whatever it is. You seem to be trying to push your way through the portal. It's like instructions. logs. Let's continue switching up each errors. Go. Again. Control.
What's the name of this one was?
One. So yes. Oh shit.
Did it not work?
Not entirely the way we want it to. We use the confirmation on anything that has delete on it. Because it's too easy to accidentally delete things. Let's try that again.
All right, so respect, maybe we'll just wait one more minute. And at the meantime, just to give you some links. So these are the links to the sample apps I've deployed. So you can go to these websites and try to log in with one of the glass tied accounts. So then you can play with. So from now on, maybe I'll just go through the this Hello World Mirror 1-Hello World example, which is the latest project I've uploaded, and you might have already downloaded while setting up the new project. Okay. So we kind of learned how to create a project in Eclipse that could run on Google Apps Engine, and then we just made a one servlet that actually uses Mirror API to insert a card into your timeline. So from now on, what we'll do is improve this example to make it more interesting. And for that, the first thing we'll do is, where was it? We did HTML, explain about Mirror API Playground, where you can play with some different HTML tags. See how it looks like on the class. Okay, here we are. So next thing we'll do is to convey some of the information that user types in on the website and push it to the class. Maybe this could be like if you are running a news website and you posted a blog post, then the server could kind of grab those information and push it to your users who has Glass on their account as well. So that's how we do. It's simply using a web form, and in this case, we'll be doing a posting this web form information to our servlet, and it will simply say, and let me show you the actual app. So this is the final version of the Hello World Mirror sample application. Maybe I'll move this better. So that was the link I've demoed right before, just adding a simple card saying Hello World. And then what we are going to do here is actually you can type in your name like Gun, and then if you click, it will add of course it will say hello gun on this website, but it will add a card to this class. So I'll just pass this on, and maybe you can have a look at different cards I've add as I go on. So now it should have a card saying hello gun instead of hello glass, and it should also have an image attached to the background. So let me go through a little bit more detail about. So you get data from web form, and you override the do post method and get parameter from the request. And this in this case we are overriding do post method instead of do get method because we are getting some parameters from the web page. And these are the methods you call to get those parameters, and then inside. One more thing about setting up things. If you want to have images hosted on Google App Engine, then since we have filtered out all the inappropriate access to our website, you'll have to make sure the static files like the image files are served without login. So you can, if you add these tag to the web.xml, then this path here will be treated as a static folder which will only contain images or other assets in there. So let me actually import the final project here and show you the actual class. So I'll first close everything, and then I'll file import existing project. I've done this before, and then you choose the root directory of the sample project I've given you. Where is it? It's class tutorial projects mirror 1, and in here open, done. So if you import the final version of the project, it will look like this. Uh-oh, it's not what I wanted. That's Hello Glass actually. Hello Mirror. Okay, sorry with the confusing name. So again, this time we are just extending this hello world servlet. Before we only had this letter part, which is do get and just adds pre-made card into the timeline. In this case, we are calling the same servlet, but doing post method, handling post method, which will come with some parameters from the website as well, basically the web form. So in this case, I'm looking for this custom name parameter, and then if I get the custom name value from the parameter, it's as easy as just putting that string combined with some other strings to get a custom message. And then you again create a timeline item and add some bunch of actions. And then in this case, we are also adding an image, making an attachment, which is an image file to the class. So in this case, we use slightly different insert method called not only the timeline item, but the attachment as well, so that the image will attach to the card. Again, this is not the only way to add images to the card. In this case, we are attaching the JPEG image to the card, so the whole image will be sitting in Google Mirror API server. So it will actually get the image from this URL and save it on Google Mirror API server. But the other thing you can do is if you go to that Mirror API playground, there is a way that you can just type in the image URLs within the HTML text. So in that case, the card is only storing those URLs to the images, which is embedded in the HTML. And there are cons and pros. Of course, if you embed images as a URL in your HTML tag, it will be smaller, so it will take lesser time for a round trip to the Google server and then back to the class. But in this case, it's only URLs embedded in HTML tag. if you want to do some server-side processing of the image, then you can add it as an attachment, as in this case. Then you can later on, from your code, ask the Mirror API to get the attachment from the card and process that image and send it back to the user. So, where are we? So that's and in this case, I'm hosting that image here, and this is just creating an empty folder here just by right-clicking new folder and giving it a name, and then just copying over images I would like to use in the static folder. Oops, I think I did something wrong. Anyway. And then that's how to attach image. I think they also support attaching videos, but I think there are certain limitations with file size and sort of. And I'll skip that. And then the other thing you can do is manage timelines, like listing the all cards you've inserted so far. So timeline items are grouped into different applications or web apps, so that you cannot access cards that other web apps inserted, but all the cards you've inserted, you can access them. So, and also those websites using the same API console project, even if you create multiple credentials for multiple websites, if it's under the same project, then those will be sharing the same timeline items. So you can list the timeline item, delete some of them. Again, it's pretty much simple API calls that you call them, but just keep in mind that in the end, you'll have to call these execute methods. Otherwise, the request to the Mirror API will end up in sitting in your web app and not going further to the Google's Mirror API, the actual service. So you can list them, delete them, and you can pin them. Actually, this is an example of simulating a live card using static cards. So since Mirror API can update already existing card on your timeline, what you can do is ask user to pin your card onto the left side of your glass timeline. And what you can do is afterwards, you keep the ID of that timeline item or the card created and update it afterwards. You can update it like every, I think, if your live card are expected to update some data every 2-3 seconds, then that's easily doable. That you update the card from the server side, and of course it might not be as good as real-time processing, but it's still doable in that way. So let me show you listing items and deleting items from the website. So if again, these all links are just created another servlet, added the definition of the servlet to the web XML, added a link to the HTML file, created a class of the servlet, and implemented either do get or do post methods. So if I click this manage timeline link, then it will show me all the details of the cards I've inserted using the credential I've used for creating this website. So the latest one was hello gun with text, and HTML was not set. This one was a card with an HTML having some content. There you can see some troubles here. No, actually, it's fine. So, and then some of them are actually location update content, but I'll explain it later on. And you can click on these delete items. Since you can also ask Mirror API to delete some of the items, you can actually delete the items as well. And it's always a good idea to have some sort of way to delete cards, either having a menu item on the card so that users can manually delete it, or having this kind of web-based service provided so that people can delete some of the cards that your website created. The problem is if you don't provide those methods, then there is at the moment no way to remove the cards from your Google account, unfortunately. So that's a good thing to mention. And just one tip I can give is if you are too lazy to implement that servlet for your own testing purpose, then one thing you can do if you create the credential. Where did we go? I think there was a Mirror API playground somewhere, or maybe I just open it up once more. Playground, tools, playground. So if you create a credential in the same project as your web app and put that credential to authorize here, then what this will do is also list your timeline items here in the same project. So from here, I think you can actually delete them somehow. No. No, sorry, false alarm. that was incorrect. So you can, or you can use some of the sample codes I gave you and just run it and use the same project created, credential created under the same project, and we'll have the same timeline group, so you can delete them manually. So that's deleting timeline. And the next thing is dealing with locations. And the simplest thing is you can ask Mirror API where your glass is. So so you can call this locations get method and send the request to the server, and it will come back with the list of locations that in this case it will come back with only one locations, but you can also use list command to get the latest 5 or 10 location information that your glass were at. And also you can draw maps in your card. So Google provides Google Maps, obviously, so they have a special URL especially for Google Glass itself. So while you are adding HTML text to your card, you can use this specific URL scheme with width and height of the image you want to put in your card, and then you add this ampersand delimiter with marker at, this is the ID of the marker 0 at latitude, longitude, and it will, the Google Map server will generate an image which is sized in this size. In this case, it's smaller than the card itself, but you can create it full screen. Again, this is just an image of a snapshot of the map, so you cannot really interact it to zoom in or zoom out, but still you can create images to timeline. And also you can also add text next to it, since it's just an image. And this link below will show you a little bit more details what kind of things you can add, multiple markers, you can draw lines to show the route and sort of things you can do. And once you've got that map working, another thing you can do is actually add a menu item called navigate, which will add a menu item that when the user chooses it, it will start the built-in navigation application. So in this case, if you create a timeline item, which is a card, and set location with this latitude, longitude, I don't think this part is necessary, but anyway, and then within that same timeline item or the card, you add the menu item called action navigate. Then once you've inserted that to the timeline, what will appear is a card with a menu item that user can tap to navigate to that location tied to the card. So maybe I'll do the live demo of that one. So I'll go back to my home screen, and I can first locate my glass. If I click locate my glass, then it will show you where the glass is currently, 43.5222. Of course, you'll have to use some other web based services that can translate this lat long into actual human readable addresses. But I think Google actually provides one, so that's out of the scope of this class. And again, you can also create of course, Google Maps always, you can create a link to a Google map like this, so you can type in the lat long and shows you where you are. So, and I think while I did click that, I think it might have pushed another card to that class. And if you would like, you can log into this website with the account connected to that one to see. I think it might have added a card with the map image attached together. And then another thing is you can actually not only ask the Mirror API to passively pass you the current location, but you can actually subscribe to the location updates, just like the cards I've shown you with the bundles. So you can subscribe to location updates, and then once you subscribe, what the Mirror API server will do is regularly call your own website to define callback servlet. So inside your servlet, you're getting a request from the Google Web Server regularly with location updates. And so if I subscribe now, if I click it, then if I leave it like that, and of course I can unsubscribe it as well. But if I leave it as it's subscribed, then the Google server will keep updating my website about where is my Google Glass, and my website will push card to this glass every time when the Google server calls mine. Yeah. So so in this case, there was one thing I wanted to mention. I just got out of my mind. Maybe it will come back later. Never mind. So maybe I'll show you a little bit more code about this, because this is about adding subscription to the Google server to call you back. So show you the code, actual code. So creating a servlet that can be notified by the Google server is pretty much the same how you do with other servlet as well. But the difference is when you're implementing this notification servlet, first of all, let me show you how to subscribe to certain updates. So this subscribe location servlet is the servlet that was called when I clicked that subscribe link on my website. And what it does is just goes through the current subscription and see if we already subscribed for locations. If it exists, it will say you already subscribed to it and finish. Otherwise, it will create a subscription object and then just call the Mirror API to insert your subscription. And within this subscription object, you have this object you are interested in to get updated. In this case, it's about locations. And then this is the URL you want to be called back by the Google Web Server. And once you've added the subscription to the Mirror API, the Mirror server will call your website back to this servlet every time it has an update. And then all you have to do is implement this servlet to listen from the Google API server and process that information accordingly. And that notification servlet is actually this one. And since it's since this request to this servlet is made by another server, it's better to respond it right away with saying, okay, I've got your request, and then later on you process the information you've got, and you can see from here that you can extract a notification object using this code, and within the notification object, within the notification object, you can get the user who subscribed to the notification. Obviously, notification could be coming for different users. Those subscribed on your website. So you get the user from the Google Authorization server, and then you call the same Mirror API to get the locations and then create a timeline item accordingly. So that's how to deal with notifications on the server. So again, you create a subscription and a particular servlet that will be called back by the Mirror API server, providing you updates with locations. And another thing is timeline. So whenever user adds another card or updates the card or replies to the card, your website can get update from Mirror API. So you can know if they have replied to your card or if they have pressed a certain action item from the menu, or if their location has updated. All those kind of information could be used for calling back your own web servlet from the Mirror API. And when you're doing subscription, it's better to check, add your code to make sure if you're already subscribing or not. And I've shown you that code earlier. And that's the code to add subscription. And this is the one to delete from subscription. And you'll have to create a sublet, and that sublet should handle post notification, which is sent by the Mirror API server. Then respond back with OK result. And then you and one thing you might have to remember is this callback notification callback servlet shouldn't be filtered by the auth filter. So because of since it's the Google server talking to your web server, the Google server cannot really click that authentication button. So you'll have to filter out that particular servlet that you are responding to the callback. To do that, just look at this auth filter class, and there will be, at the beginning of the class, there will be some variables that defines which servlet or which URL to not filter and let it pass through. And when you're handling this kind of notification, again, you'll have to get the user ID from the Google API server rather than asking the user to log in, of course, obviously. And I won't go through this code since we've already shown them. And again, once you've subscribed to updates, then you'll get notification, and then you can get the notification item. If it's a location update, then you can get the notification item directly and get the red long out of it. And if it's a timeline updates, then you can look for different user actions and see if user has replied to your card, or user has tapped on a custom menu item, or if user has shared a picture to your website. So the way you interact with the website is you can use the standard picture taking app on the glass, and once you've taken a picture, you can tap on the menu and choose share. And what it will do is it will share that image to your website, and your website will be able to get the image from the card that the user shared with. And this launch type of action is launched using the voice trigger method. So Mirror API also does support, although it's limited, voice triggered launch of the app itself. So let me show you location updates and timeline. I've already shown that one. Skip that. And for especially for launching or sharing activities, you'll have to create a contact of your website. Obviously, standard applications on the glass for sharing or launching, for sharing something is to the people on the contact of address book on the glass. But the special thing here is that actually you can create a contact of your website itself rather than a person. So when the Google Glass user shares a picture or something some timeline item to your website, then your website will have an access to that timeline item to get the image or a text from the card and process it on the server side. So let me actually show you the launch demo. And by the way, before we do the voice launching demo, I will show you just one more thing. So again, for this thing, you'll have to add the contact to this web app to the mirror. I mean, to the end user's class. So this is another servlet that adds the contact to the web app. I'll just leave it to there. And also, you'll have to subscribe timeline updates. So you click that, and once you're there, and I open up this. So now my web app is subscribing to timeline updates and both location updates. So it will get called back by the Google Mirror API server. And then, first of all, let me show you one thing, which is ask my name. So this one, if I click this servlet, then what this servlet does is insert a card that's ask you, what is your name? And the special thing with this is it has a built-in menu item called reply. So if you tap reply, and then gun, pick 2 words, and then it will send it to my website. And then my website will process, since this timeline item showing that I shared this with my web app. And later on, my server will be getting a notification from Google Mirror API saying that actually I've replied to the timeline item. And if I wait for a moment, then it should, my web server should reply back saying hello, gun. In this case, maybe hello, then gun. Maybe not working. Sometimes it takes some time to get subscription working. Subscribe timeline item update. Oh, maybe I unsubscribed it before, so I'll do it again. Add a contact. Contact already exists. Just to make sure timeline updates. The reason why I didn't get the reply back was I think I unsubscribed my timeline updates. Maybe I'll subscribe to location updates as well. And the server will keep sending some cards. But anyway, I'll reply it again. What is your name? And then I'll start. Gun. Fun. It's usually worse if you say only one word, because if you say a sentence, then it figures out from the context. But it's good. And I think I've just added this. So that item shows me, there we go. So that item shows me the record of I've replied to this card here. So I've replied, this is just a record of I replied, the fact that I replied. And this is the card that my web server actually got a notification from the Google API, Mirror API, and pushed a card that has a customized string that I picked up from my shared or replied item. So that's there. And also, maybe I'll show you launching. I think another thing is you can actually launch your website from the voice command with OKGlass. So if I open up this timeline, OK glass, and there should be something called post and update. Hello, this is testing. There you go. So, and then it's what it's actually doing is it's posting to my timeline. But the thing is, since my web app is subscribing to my timeline, it will get a notification whenever I did something. And then, as you can see here, my web server created another card saying, hello world, got your update saying, hello, this is to thing which was not I said. And again, you can relay like, if you got this, you can say, OK glass. And then you can further trigger the menu items tied to this card itself without touching anything. Read out loud. OK glass. Read out loud. Read loud. Read aloud. So I'm not sure if you can hear it, but read aloud what was on the card. So that's it. I think that was pretty much a lot of stuff I've went through, and it's 4:13 already. Fortunately, we didn't have much time to let you actually do your project work, but I hope that was useful to make sure everyone is set up with the basic setup for development, so that actually you can run your sample codes, and it's pretty much straightforward once you've got the setups correctly. So one couple of things I could suggest you to try on is so the menu items, there are built-in menu items such as reading aloud the text and pinning it or deleting it or replying to it. But you can also create custom menu items as well. So if you go to these links, then it will explain how to process the custom menu item. The way custom menu item works is you have to subscribe to the timeline. So once you've subscribed to the timeline, then whenever the user chooses a custom menu item, it will make the Google Mirror API get notified about that custom menu item being chosen, and then your Mirror API will call back your website about notifying your website saying your end user clicked custom menu item this on this card and give you IDs of the card and menu item he clicked. And also, you can also subscribe to share. So in this case, if you say you've taken a picture and then you clicked on a share menu item, which is a standard menu item, and then you can choose the contact of the web app we are running, and then that image, the picture will be sent to the web app, the timeline where the web app can access, and from there you can actually access the picture the user has taken from their glass and share it to your timeline. So those are tips. More tips, you can obviously use other web tools, like you can use JSP. One of the projects that I've shown you earlier is actually using JSP as the main page. So you can do some more active server-side scripting. Or if you, another tool you can easily use is a freemarker.org library. This is a simple library that you can create HTML templates and fill in with predefined data, pretty much similar as PHP scripting, and except it's just running with Java string manipulation code. So instead of typing in all those HTML tags within the string, sometimes it could be tedious. So you can create a template, and then from your code, just call this library to create a HTML page out of a template with customized data from Java code. Another thing you can think of is certain web servers provide scheduled jobs, like running it every midnight or lunchtime or every hour or something. So, and if you could set those on the server side and you schedule to run certain servlet that you've made, then what you can do is your web application will be keep running every hour or every day, and then keep posting messages to your glass. And this is a book that recently was published by Eric Redmond, and he goes through a little bit more details about how to use. I think he pretty much covers the similar stuff I've covered through this tutorial, but he focuses on more on converting existing web services to glass services as well. And quick start samples also is the codes made by Google themselves, so they're sharing their code as well. So this one will show you some other features I haven't mentioned. And these are the websites. Those projects I've shared with you are actually hosted on my account. So if you don't feel you want to run it on your account, then you can just go to this website, log in with one of the Google accounts tied to the glass, and then you can play with them and see how the code works. So that's it for today. Thank you for sitting for long hours throughout the day, and thank you for your patience. And if you have any questions or lessons or comments.
The playground.
Yep.
So we can use that to try out HTML.
HTML, basically HTML code. So if you go to
actually make that work. It's asking for an ID, which it doesn't seem to let me type in any of the IDs I have.
okay, let me go to the website now and
use that the playground URL for the font logo.
so what you'll have to do is
That ID there.
so for designing stuff, you don't really have to log in. So you can actually just click here and type in different things, and it will instantly update on the website itself. But the thing you need login is if you want to push this design template to your glass and see how it looks like on the glass, then you have to log in with a client ID here. And the way how to create this client ID is if you click, I think it should have a link down here. Yeah, here it is. If you click here, it will explain how to do that, but it's basically going to the console. Where is it? The API console, and probably within the same project, you've created your own credential for your web app. You just create a new one, and then if I go back to this website, there is a special URL this playground is actually hosted at. So you copy that and go back to here and then paste it, create a client ID, and then once it got the client ID, you copy this value and paste it in that form, and then you'll be logged in. And the thing why you do it in this way is, if you do it in this way, and of course you'll have to log in with your with one of the accounts tied to the glass, since you're pushing to that glass. And if I click update item, it should push to this one. And the reason why you need the credential is it will actually the cards will be not stacked up on Google server, but it ends up in the Google server. It will not be stacked up with timeline access, timeline items accessible by this app. But if you go to the timeline here, actually, it will show you the timeline items that's tied with the other project you had. So it will be sharing the same timeline with this the other project, your own project. So you yeah. So you can also create another project to make it separate. But if you're testing something with your own project and try to share the timeline, then you can create two client IDs within the same project, and you will share the timeline so your app can access that cards later on as well. So I think from now on you've got a kind of overview about what Mirror API can do and what it can't. So maybe you will have a little more idea about how your final application or final project might look like in terms of how you will use Mirror API for certain things. And I haven't talked much about GDK, but tomorrow we'll talk a little bit more detail. But for those who are already familiar with Android programming, it's simply Android code, 90% Android code. So you can start thinking of your own app and also try out some of the sample codes provided by GDK as well. And by the way, the sample codes on the GDKs are, I think all three of them are actually just live card samples. So it doesn't have any samples for immersion because of immersions are basically same as Android apps. So there's not much thing to show.
One question I have is to do with the use. I could probably find this out. I think it's in the GDK, but to do with getting voice input. If you were to do something like, I noticed some of the apps did like a search function where they get you to say what you're looking for, like the Google one did it and the recipe one did it. Is there like a sort of standard easy way of doing that, or would you just grab their voice, get it as a string, send it to the server, do a search, and send back a list of things? Is that sort of how they...
So how the voice works on Glass is actually the same as Android. So I think the standard voice recognition feature on Android is you can create an intent to trigger the standard voice recognition activity of built-in system activity. And then what it does is records the sound, goes to the server, analyzes it, and sends you back a list of strings. And you can choose from those strings thereof.
Cool. Sounds good.
So if you are particularly interested in that, then if you just look at the voice recognition feature of Android itself, that's the same feature on the Google Glass.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So there's no any more questions. We haven't really done any project work today, so we won't go through and share our codes. So maybe I'll just ask a couple of questions. So do you think that was useful enough to get you started playing with Mirror API? Hopefully that was not too complicated. As I've said earlier, it's quite a lot of work with setting up all the things together, and then once you've done all of those settings, including authentication, then it's just a matter of calling and creating Java class objects and copying and pasting some sample codes and sort of things. So it's easy as that. And again, it's not only limited to Java Servlet. So those of you who are more familiar with PHP codes or other type of web languages, then if you go to this website, developers.google, again, the same website, Playground. If you go to the develop and Mirror API, there's a quick start projects. That's basically the same project I've shown you before with this interface. So they have the same application in different languages here. So they have Go, I'm not sure, I'm not familiar with Go, Java, .NET, PHP, Python, Ruby, you can host it. Some of them have different dependencies, so it might require some different features on the server side. Particularly with the PHP one, it needed, I think it was SQLite and Perl script support on the server side. So I was out of luck to find a free web hosting service that provides those features, including HTTPS callback as well. I think there was only one service that was, what was the service if you're interested? can't remember. So if you're interested, just let me know. Then I can go through the files on my desktop and see which one was it. Or if you have your own favorite web hosting service, then you can use that one as well. So I think maybe we'll wrap up earlier today, and it's still 4:30, and I don't think we'll be doing that much of project work, so I'll actually let you do some project work from now on until 5 or 5:30, and you can leave whenever you want. I'll leave the glasses here and let you use them as you need. Unfortunately, we only have 2 glasses working properly at the moment, so feel free to grab it and try it by yourself, the websites and things I've given you. And by the way, the slides, I've updated a couple of slides throughout the talk, so I'll just update the slide right now with the latest one I've used for presentation. Okay.